Sometimes I like to start from the end at the beginning and then in the reality of what we're sharing,
Yeah,
which is a kind of a timestamp awareness of this is midway through the interview,
yeah.
but to say, I think people might want to pause
Yeah.
this at times. So I think maybe at the beginning we might say that to reflect on the gravity of the stages of your experience.
So, yeah, I was taken in the hospital, carried in, manhandled on a stretcher into a room. And initially, they needed to give me stitches because I had bits of bone sticking out of my leg. And I remember the nurse, I guess, giving me stitches. And he saw the bone sticking out of my leg, and he licked his thumb and pushed the bone back into my leg before he stitched me up.
Welcome to Diary with the Original Fall Guy, and this is a particularly different episode. I think we're going to be maybe possibly episode 3 or 4, and you can see where we are. We're at Cheshire Podcast Studios, and an incredible place to be. And I am now going to introduce that I am with the original Fall Guy, John Cheetham. How are you doing, John?
I'm fine, Ray. You?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yeah, so
Good.
we're kind of used to doing this,
Yes.
talking. We're used to talking,
Yeah.
but maybe not in the environment we're in.
No.
Let's start there. Let's start where we are. How do you feel about being here?
Fine. Looking forward to having been born in Cheshire. Sometimes it's like going home. There's the slight element of property, surrounding countryside. It's got a kind of feel to what I was dealing with when my problem came around.
Your problem.
Yeah,
I know. We've started already. Um, but the problem we're going to talk about to begin with,
yeah,
and I think that's important for the growing audience of people that are becoming aware of yourself and
yeah,
your life. I've chosen myself to refer to you as the original Fall Guy.
yes,
We
yeah,
might talk a little bit later about other Fall Guys that you've had contact with.
yes,
But
yeah,
I think it's an important reference to make because of what you experienced and
yeah,
what happened to you. And again, I want to emphasize that, of course, we're sharing that across social media. We're doing that in a number of different places. We're doing that by a number of different creative means. But there are some people who don't know.
yes,
There are some people who are becoming aware of this name, John Cheetham, Fall Guy. What's this all about?
yeah,
So let's begin with you explaining in whatever way you feel comfortable
yeah.
and go into a reasonable amount of detail
Okay,
as to what happened.
okay. So I worked for an estate agent on the Fylde coast near Blackpool. I'd worked for the said estate agent for about 13 years when I let a property to an American couple. American lady was working in the area. American husband had just sold his business in Kentucky. And Kentucky and business play a big part in what happened
Hmm.
to me.
Hmm. I-
And I'm not talking chicken.
Brilliant. Uh, other fast food chains are available,
Yeah,
so we'll emphasise that now. But brilliant, and I want to just spend a moment because it's just come back to me with the original contact
yeah,
with the wife,
yeah,
so of the American man,
yeah,
and what happened with which shows your work ethic at the time, and I would suggest right through to today as well.
Yeah, same.
Um, the 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 meeting for reviewing of a house. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Which
Yeah,
was
so the lady came in the office back in the old days when estate agents opened on a Sunday. Lady came in the office about 3:30, and it was blowing a gale outside. It was pouring down. Horrendous bad day on the coast. Lady came in, wet through. Uh, I said hello, can I help? And I noticed an American accent. So I got talking to her, sat her down, made her a coffee, said, look, what can we do for you? She said, well, I'm working in the area for the next 3, 4, 5 years. I need a property to let. So, me being me, I said, well, I've got that, that, and that at the minute. She said, I like that one. It kind of looks American type estate where that house is. Can you show me that house? I said, yeah, of course. So she said, I need to view that house at 5 a.m. Well, 5 a.m. is certainly my earliest appointment ever. But I said, yeah, it's fine. I'll grab the key in the morning and let's have a look at 5 a.m. in the morning.
which I think for possibly, it's just a thought again that's coming to me, for any estate agents that are watching now, I think they would see that as an incredible work ethic. I mean, that's a very, very unusual time for a
Yeah,
house view,
yeah,
5 o'clock in the morning. So,
yeah,
so there you were, you did that. And I think, again, that's a reflection of you as a human being. You were good at your job. You had a powerful work ethic. You wanted to serve people in what you were doing and
yeah,
provide a good service. So that led to the events that then unravelled
yes,
from that time. So move us a little bit forwards towards the American businessman.
yeah,
He'd started having contact with you. He'd come in and kind of, have a bit of a chat.
yeah.
Where did that ultimately lead to in terms of what happened
Okay,
next?
so we had the initial house with the wife that we viewed at 5 a.m. There was a financial issue with the owner on that house. So in the end, the lady couldn't take the house. So I ended up finding another house for her, which I did very quickly. She moved in there. Then about a week later, a really loud American brash guy came in the office, and he came in just to say thanks for what I'd done to help his wife. Um, then the American guy started coming in the office every day. It was kind of, hey, John, just thought I'd say hello. Thanks for all the work you did for my wife. That was amazing, John. Can I take you for a coffee? And that kind of
I think you painted a brilliant picture, John. Thank you.
exactly where he was,
Yeah.
exactly how he was.
Yeah.
And he came in every day. So I'd be having a coffee with him, having a chat. Uh, hey, would you mind me asking what you do? Because I didn't really know. And he said, yeah, I sell racehorses worldwide.
Mhm.
I've got clients such as um, United Arab Emirates leaders, Russian leaders, pop stars, politicians, film stars worldwide. They bought racehorses from me over the last 30 years.
Mhm.
I said,
Mhm.
actually, I'm not a huge racehorse fan, although I do enjoy my day at the
Mhm.
races.
The atmosphere and the
The
feeling. Yeah.
atmosphere,
Yeah.
the people, the atmosphere, the
Yeah.
food,
Yeah. Yeah.
general. it's generally quite an exciting day.
Yeah, definitely.
So we got talking about that.
And that led to, so again, a reflection of you, relationship building, which is just a part of you as a person. And,
Yeah,
and we'll come a little bit further on to the fact that you and I have known each other just over a year now,
yeah,
what that's led to, but we'll talk about that later. So you're doing your job really, really well. You've stepped up. You stepped up at a time of day that's unusual. You're engaging and entertaining this larger than life American businessman,
yeah,
and that leads to what I would suggest possibly within your job was a unique opportunity
yeah,
of travel. Um, I want you, if you can, to jump to Bulgaria because
yeah.
I know there was other trips before that. But if you can tell us what happened with around, obviously doing a service
Yeah.
for the American businessman and then ultimately what that led to.
So his usual day about 10:30, he'd amble in the office. Hey, John, I want to take you for a coffee, man. So we'd go for a coffee on the high street. Um, and he got out this morning, he got out a briefcase and some site plans. What's that? He said, there's a property become available in Bulgaria. And you might be aware, John, that Bulgaria are just about to join the EU.
Mm.
This property is an old racecourse, racetrack as he called them, just outside Varna in Bulgaria. I would like to buy it for a horse breeding operation in Bulgaria. You know that I sell racehorses, and breeding is a big part of that. Can you help me? Yeah, of course. You know what I'm like.
Mhm.
Happy to help.
Mhm.
Um, he said, "Well, we'll go back to the office, and I'll ask the guy that you work for. Is it okay if I take it to Bulgaria?"
So just to pause there, John, how did that feel at that time? Because it's an important question to ask because we both know,
Yeah,
and you know even more what's coming next. But I want to just timestamp it for the emotion of what that felt because it's easy when people hear what happened
yeah.
to maybe think that's a bit unusual. How did it feel at that moment in time, as much as you can remember? Was it
For me, it was unusual, but I saw it as me just doing my job.
absolutely?
I never saw it as any more than that.
Yeah.
I stepped up for his wife. We'd had a problem with the first house. I had to step up again. I did that again. This just kind of came along as, oh, it's another day at work.
A perk, a bonus,
Yeah,
a kind of a result of a reward
yeah,
for what you do.
yeah,
So that's how you felt at that time.
yeah,
Then you made the journey.
yeah.
There were two occasions, so you went across initially.
We're with him
Yep,
initially.
yep. Move forwards now to you're going back with proof of the fact that money's there
Yeah,
for the people that you're buying the land
yeah,
from,
yeah,
buying it for this American gentleman. I do want to say this. We are going to talk about this, but it's coming to me. All of this is contained in the published book Fall Guy.
yes,
Okay, so we are kind of pushing through that within time a little bit because there's more detail
yeah,
and the names have been changed. That's the bit I wanted
yeah.
to mention
All,
then.
all the names have been changed apart from the people that helped me.
Yeah,
Everybody else has got a different name.
yeah.
The American guy in the book has got a very unusual name,
Mm,
but his name in real life was completely
mm,
unusual
mm,
anyway.
mm. So you've chosen not to identify those individuals.
Okay.
Yeah. So you then travel across on your own to secure this land
Yeah.
for this American businessman, who I think I have to say, I can't help myself, sorry, that you depict brilliantly. So now you're over in Bulgaria
Yeah.
to secure the land. Give us a movement towards the bridge, if you can, please.
Okay, so quickly, I'll just say that he came in the office with the proof of funds. Hey, John, I've got the proof from the bank this morning, my man. Do you want to fly to Bulgaria tomorrow with that? I can't make it with you. That didn't ring alarm bells at that point, but perhaps it should.
Mhm.
But hey, John, that's what you need for the racetrack. I've just got that from the bank this morning. If you need anything while you're there, just give me a call. There's your ticket. John's okay to go to Bulgaria tomorrow for me? Yeah, no problem. And that's how it went. So I got on an early morning flight out of Manchester to Varna. Got to Varna, made the phone calls to meet the government minister who was in charge of this land that I was meeting. Did fly out with my brother-in-law at that time on that trip, because we'd been given hotel rooms, and why not? He
Making
asked
the
me if he
most of
could
it.
join me, and
Yeah, making the
why
most of
not?
it. Yeah. So you were there,
Yeah,
and everything was, I suggest, looking pretty good.
yeah,
And again, the generous spirit that you are, which I know I can say because I've known you for a year and we spent a lot of time together, that is one of the most unbiased opinions I've ever shared. And the fact I know you, it's more to do with the human being that you are. So it doesn't surprise me that your brother-in-law was with you, because you've taken advantage of that situation
yeah.
to go with somebody else and make something out of it and enjoy that time. We're now, I think I can feel it, and I'm sure you can as well. To what happened next.
Okay, so we were out, myself and my brother-in-law were out, evening night out, coming towards the end of the week that we'd been there, and going out of the door of a club or pub, we got separated. So very close to the door, we were separated, and I was looking round trying to find my brother-in-law. Couldn't find him, and I thought, oh, I was involved with something. Let him get on with it.
At that time, which again, I can't imagine how difficult it is to answer this question. As much as you can remember, were you overly concerned, majorly concerned
No,
that you got separated?
no,
Just, he's gone where he's gone,
yeah.
and
He's gone to the bar, or
yeah,
he's got talking to someone. So I wasn't bothered.
no, no,
Because on the previous trip I'd been to that area, I didn't know it, but I wasn't
no.
concerned.
You didn't feel uncomfortable.
No.
You were, yeah.
So I came out of the club on this kind of like a mini park that leads the old town of Varna to the new town. It's kind of a grassy bridge, waterfalls, kind of rocky park. So it's like something you'd see at your local park. Nothing concerned me.
Mhm.
It was lit, although dimly. I kind of knew my way to where I wanted to go to get a cab
Mhm.
to go back to the hotel.
Yeah.
And I thought, my brother-in-law will follow me back.
He's having a good time.
Yeah, he's doing
You're
whatever he's
you're
doing.
out and about. You've been there before.
Yeah.
You know what the place is like. Nothing unusual to sort
No,
of share here.
no.
Then,
I was walking up like a isolated path through this wooded park area, and I got approached by 4 rather looking big guys. Kind of bodybuilder, wrestler type size. If you can imagine WWE from America, they were big guys. I did a lot of training at a gym at that time, but these were big guys. They were twice the size of me.
not
And they were,
not your usual sorts, not your
no,
usual sorts, and you, you must have felt the beginning of feeling uncomfortable at that
yeah,
point, at least I would say for anybody who's been in a similar experience.
yeah,
I think people could relate to that in terms of we've been places and you're walking down the street on your own and somebody's coming along and you think, oh, you feel uncomfortable.
yeah. I was uncomfortable. And then I don't remember too much more other than I heard a bullet. And I've been told from various people that if you hear a bullet, you've been shot, but you've survived. If you don't hear a bullet, you're dead.
And are you okay to answer this question, John? You've shared this before with such courage, but I don't think I've ever asked you this question before, which is, how would you describe the sound as much as you can remember if you're comfortable answering that question?
Yeah, the sound is, even though a kind of naive estate agent from a upmarket town on the Fylde coast is not used to the sound of a bullet, I knew it was a bullet.
Yeah.
It's got that distinctive noise of, you can't describe it, but even if you're 3 years old or 50 years old, that noise is a bullet. You might know that from films.
Yeah.
You might know that from TV. You might
Mm-hmm.
know that from unusual situations you've been in, if you're unfortunate enough to have heard that before. You might have been on a shooting range having a day out, but that was a bullet noise.
And also, I think the distinction you've just made, and particularly TV, film, you're hearing that remotely.
Yes.
You were shot.
Yeah.
So you would have been, the noise would have been right there. And of course, what happened? Where were you shot?
I was shot through my right leg.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was, whether that was a warning shot or whatever, but the outside of my right leg. From what I can remember of the park wooded area is there's a railing on the left-hand side of me, and I don't know if they had pushed me up against the railing before they shot me. But yeah, I got shot on the outside of my right hand leg.
So the build-up was normal life. You were there doing your job, doing it incredibly well, which is why you were there.
Yeah.
And through no fault of your own, you were then shot.
Yeah.
And the events that follow, and again, I want to reference Fall Guy, the book. When we first met, and we'll come on to that in a moment, I chose not to read it to begin with.
You did,
A period of time.
Which I found strange, but yeah.
Michelle, my partner, read it.
Yeah.
and several times,
Yeah.
genuinely, it was. I would say, I love Michelle dearly. I would say it was almost like a little bit of nagging, but in a bit, but in a positive way. You need to read this.
Yeah.
You need to read this. And I said, because of other things, which we'll come on to, I felt at that time I didn't want to.
Yeah.
When I did, the bit that she shared with me and others have shared with me is the series of events that then transpired,
Yeah.
because it's enough in the casual build up to this moment and then the proximate cause, as you reference it,
So I do.
you being shot,
Yeah.
that's shocking, to say the least.
Yeah.
To say the least. I'm going to just leave it open now, John, in the sense of I would like you to spend a reasonable period of time within what we're sharing, and it's all contained in the book in far more detail.
Yes.
The shocking events that then followed, as if that isn't enough. What then happened after you were shot?
So I came round on concrete. I remember coming round on concrete distinctly like a coastal river road. And I remember looking up and seeing like a flyover bridge above my head. And the first thing I did was try to get up and walk. So I stood up and fell over. I thought, this isn't good, I've had too much to drink. But I tried again and fell over again. Then I noticed a pool of blood, bits of bone sticking out of my leg. My right shoe was red, like a crimson lake, I call it. That's all I could see in front of me, was like a mini crimson lake. I describe it as that. And I collapsed back onto the road, the tarmac, looking up at the road above my head. And that was, the road above my head was a long way above my head. I remember that.
How far, as much as you can?
It's probably 50 foot above my head, minimum.
And it might feel a stupid question to ask, but that road above your head was where you were.
Yeah.
So what happened from when you were shot to now you're 50 feet on the ground?
I don't know. This is the problem.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I've gathered later from information I've received a long time after. But at that point, when I was on the floor, covered in bone and blood and a mess on the floor, a cab driver screeched on the road in front of me. And to get to me, he'd reversed maybe 100 meters, maybe more. And he screeched to a halt in front of me. He was Bulgarian speaking. He got out of the cab very, very quickly, opened the back passenger side door, and then dragged me himself into the back of the cab. So again, he must have been a big guy. After that journey in the cab, I never knew who he was, other than he seemed to be, to me, a cab driver. I don't know if he was, but he was built like the guys that I was with when I got shot. So a big guy, and he must have been to drag me physically off a road and into the back seat of a cab.
And you already mentioned you were, you were working out at times.
Yeah.
You weren't a small
No.
person to be able to, for him to be able to do that.
Yeah. He dragged in the cab. He put my leg in the cab, slammed the doors, jumped in the cab at speed, and sped off. He was shouting to me, "Where you stay? Where you stay?" And I got my key card in my pocket still from the hotel I was staying at, and I gave him that. And that's where we sped off to. Going through red lights, going at 70, 80 mile an hour through the kind of abandoned concrete streets of Varna. Red traffic lights, cold, communist-looking buildings, telephone lines overhead. That's all I remember. And we got to the hotel fairly quickly, even though from what I remember again, it was 3-4 miles away from where we were. We seemed to get there within minutes.
Adrenaline must be pumping, kind of like, I can't. I've heard you speak before. I've read the book. We've talked in detail, and I just every time you share it, and I think for those that are listening, watching, must be so many questions spinning as to what it was like in that experience, and when you share it, I see visual ideas of it. I've got pictures of you moving around on the back seat and how it must have been at that breakneck speed. Some parts of relief, even though you were in immense pain at the time, but some parts of relief of thinking, thank you, human being. I don't know you, but thank you. As well as being absolutely confused, dazed, lost in some ways at this time.
Yeah.
And then the taxi driver, took you to your hotel.
Yeah. Sorry, we pulled up very, very quickly to the hotel. He jumped out quickly, opened the back doors again, literally dragged me out like I was half a lamb at the butcher's, dragged me out of there and left me outside the hotel door in bits and in blood and battered. Slammed the doors to the cab and sped off at high speed. And that was the end of him.
And then the hotel, how did they respond to you?
So I'm now at the hotel. It's now 3, 4 in the morning. I tried to go in the hotel lobby reception. So I can't walk. I'm crawling backwards into the hotel. My legs in bits, blood everywhere still. I'm covered in it at this point. The hotel receptionist starts screaming. Security come and they drag me back out the hotel. They won't let me go in. They kept screaming, protocol, protocol. That's all I heard. So they dragged me back out to, thankfully it was dry. It was a June evening, dry and quite warm. Dragged me back out the hotel and they shut and locked the front doors.
Slight breather for a moment. This is when, I think for the audience as well, just to reflect on your human experience. You know,
Yeah.
if we were, again, we'll talk about that later, if we were to watch this on a movie screen,
Yeah.
if we were to view this in Netflix,
Yeah.
and again, other platforms are available,
Yeah.
wherever, if we were to watch this on a big screen, on a TV screen, if you didn't know that this was real life, it's like something out of an action film.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is real life. It's your life.
Yeah.
So when people read it in the book, when people have read it in the book,
Yeah.
we've not finished with the experience yet
Oh,
with what happened
no.
after.
No.
So I think, are you okay to then share the operation?
Yeah.
Which,
So we're moving forward
yeah,
to that.
which I know is part of the constant in the corner of your eye. I'm feeling genuinely emotional about this because I know you. I know the PTSD
Yeah.
that you've experienced still now.
Yeah.
So this screen in the corner of your eye that
Yeah.
constantly is like it's on a loop, and
Yeah.
I'm sharing that because you've shared that before.
Yeah.
It's what happened next that's part of that constant playing. So as if it wasn't shocking enough, which is why I think I'm putting an element of allowing people to know what something big is coming next.
Yeah. Yeah.
As to what happened after these things that
Yeah,
happened that were enough within themselves. Yeah.
If we get that in context now, I'm currently doing the podcast in the basement. And that, to me, when I was walking down here,
Yeah.
I got a flashback.
Yeah.
I don't suffer from normal flashbacks that people have.
Yeah.
I have a flashback. It's like someone saying, "Oh, a ghost just walked through me."
Mm.
I get that kind of thing when I walk into somewhere where I'm not happy, I'm not feeling safe.
And are you okay at the
Yeah,
moment to
I'm
continue?
fine, yeah.
So we want to emphasize we're in a very, very comfortable place.
We are.
Very comfortable space.
Yeah.
And we checked in with each other before we began, and it really is. I mean, the studio.
Fabulous
exceptional.
studio, rolling Cheshire countryside,
Yeah.
great host.
Yeah.
We're in a nice place, but it's a basement.
Yeah.
And so from the outside of the hotel, an ambulance came. I got taken to if you can imagine a pre-EU Victorian mental institution, if you can picture that, kind of
Like an
an old Gothic
asylum,
asylum, asylum building in Varna. I later found out that was Varna General. In England, we've still got that kind of hospital feeling. When you pull up in an ambulance, it's kind of a bit concerning because the buildings look a bit frightening in a way. There's certainly a good example of that in the Preston area of UK. Kind of a mental institution. Oh God, what am I doing here? Feeling when you turn up. So yeah, I was taken in the hospital, carried in, manhandled on a stretcher into a room, and initially they needed to give me stitches because I had bits of bone sticking out of my leg. And I remember the nurse, I guess, giving me stitches, and he saw the bone sticking out of my leg, and he licked his thumb and pushed the bone back into my leg before he stitched me up.
John, again, can we just pause there, as in, because I've heard you share that before,
Yeah,
but of course some people that are watching, listening, won't have heard that before.
no,
My response, hearing you say that, was a natural wincing of ouch. I don't think ouch does it justice. What? So you'd also at that time you'd had no pain relief.
no painkillers at that point at all. The hospital, to be honest, hadn't got any. They had no, we're talking pre-EU, communist building. They didn't have any at that point. So I had not been given the mandatory 2 aspirin that the hospital near me would give you. I'd not been given a drink of water. I'd not been given anything at this point.
And now having your bone.
My bone just pushed back in by his thumb in my leg. He then gave me stitches on, if you can imagine, a fishing line. It wasn't stitches that we have in England. It was thick, 10-pound breaking strain fishing line with a hook, like a fishing hook. He stitched me up with that.
Wow. We may or may not be able to share this in the edit of the podcast. Sometimes I like to start from the end at the beginning and then in the reality of what we're sharing.
Yeah.
Which is a kind of a timestamp awareness of this is midway through the interview.
Yeah.
But to say, I think people might want to pause this at times. So I think maybe at the beginning we might say that to reflect on the gravity of the stages of your experience, because it is reading the book. It's funny, it's the other way round. So whilst I'm feeling at the moment creating the opportunity for people to press the pause button and think, oh, wow, I need to just reflect and think about that. When you read the book, it's the opposite of what I've just said. So even though it is macabre, it's astonishing, it's gripping. I'm always in that position of feeling that the balance is you are sharing these things that happened.
Yeah.
This is your life. And even though I've spent a year with you, it still doesn't cease to astonish me that these are the things that you experience. So I think I'm just creating a moment of opportunity for others that might be at the beginning of this to say you may want to pause this video at times.
Yeah.
Just to absorb what happened.
Pause it, go and have a cup of tea, sit down, relax. I take this not lightly, but my coping mechanism with what has happened up to now and the things that happen after this, believe me, they get far worse. So please, if you need a moment to think about this, then please do. I take it as everyday event, and I deal with things differently than you do. So don't be concerned if that you need to do that. I totally understand.
And I think that's amazing coming from you. And I think we will have the opportunity very soon to turn a corner.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away what happened.
No.
Of course not. but to turn a corner of what you've reformed from what happened to you, and
Yeah.
that's the power for those who are listening and watching. And sometimes we have to go to that place of trauma and tragedy
Yeah.
in order to learn the resilience to overcome that adversity. And that's why it's incredible that you share what happened to you. So
I'd say that hurt doesn't hurt sometimes.
yeah,
I think we all need an element of hurt
yeah,
sometimes, and yet hurt doesn't hurt sometimes.
yeah, yeah. And you've shared it in the book. You're sharing it now.
Yeah.
We've shared it in other platforms as well. I want to, before we move on, because we're not going to cover the entire book, of course not,
No.
and the entire experience more accurately. I think just spend a little bit of time now with the kidnapping, the basically attempt to silence
Yeah.
what happened in Bulgaria. If you could move to that, and then we're going to move on after that
Yeah.
to the escape
Okay. Yeah.
and what's happened since then. So, and also, if you could, when was this? Remind us of when this was.
2005.
Yeah. So kidnapping and the them trying to swear you to secrecy.
Okay. So we've kind of skipped the operation here.
Yeah.
It's in the book. The operation is traumatic.
Mm.
Me being in a basement now is traumatic. But yeah, you'll read that in the book, or you will see that at some point. After I got operated on in a basement in Varna, I got thrown out of the operating theatre and thrown into the back of a ambulance, ice cream van type ambulance, as I call them. You know, your 1950s UK ambulance that we had looked more like they're selling 99s rather than taking care of your health. I got thrown in back of one of them and got driven out to the countryside of, I'm guessing Varna, but it may have been another town. Driven for about half an hour, and we pulled into a bungalow. I would call it a bungalow. Don't know to this day if we had an upstairs in the house. It looked like a 1960s, 1950s detached bungalow. Sped into the grounds of this place, dragged out of the ambulance and thrown into a bed on the ground floor. But that's all the ground floor had. So we had kind of a reception type area, semicircular. And then off that area was a room with a bed in. And I got literally thrown on the bed, and the ambulance people went, disappeared, left. About half an hour later-ish, I guess, a guy came in. Now, importantly, he was wearing a white coat at that time. But the guy that came in wearing the white coat was one of the guys that had approached me in that park on the first evening. Definitely, without a shadow of any doubt, one of the same guys.
And you can say without doubt, because I have no doubt, that was imprinted on your mind.
Yeah.
You don't forget
That still
things.
plays.
Yeah.
Ray said before that I have a TV screen in my left eye. So being thrown over that bridge onto the concrete, I don't know if I passed away, passed out. I don't know. I certainly had some element of brain damage from that. Certainly a big element of damage to my body from that. But from that, I have a TV screen that is on playback in my left eye. And that guy's image every day of my life is on playback. So there is no doubt that he's there. He follows me about in my left eye every day of my life.
That comes into the work you do now, the job you do now, the
Yeah.
feeling of being pursued all of the time.
Yeah.
And I just want to say again in this moment, we don't, you can't script times like these. The way you share what happened, I've noticed recently, I think the courage you're showing and the strength you're showing is even stronger, because you're opening up to the vulnerability, which is immense, of what happened, and sharing.
Yeah.
Like you've talked about where we are now, the context of where we are now. I've noticed more recently that you're opening up certain things that are incredibly fragile,
Yeah.
to say the least, of what happened to you. We'll move things along a little bit, John. You know me.
Yeah.
That's my point of when I get to a discussion with you where I feel immensely guilty, because I think how can you speed up, the process of what happened to you?
Yeah.
But it's documented. It's in the book.
Yeah.
We will talk in a moment about what happened. I want to fill in a couple of gaps, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Which is, you were beaten. That was in the hospital.
Inside the hospital.
Yeah. Police.
On
Is
the
that right?
6th floor.
Yeah.
6 policemen and a police lady, like governor. She was certainly above admin, wasn't admin. She was like chief of police or something similar. Came marching into the hospital room I was in, and the 6 policemen went about beating me up in the hospital. Now, there was other people in this hospital room that saw all this and chose to turn their head away while this was happening. The lady then shouted, "Sign, sign, sign," and they made me sign some paperwork. And in broken English, she said, "Nothing happened, nothing happened, sign, nothing happened." And then a parting gift from one of the policemen was he slapped me across the face after I'd signed a piece of paper. They then padlocked me to the bed in the hospital and left. Now, this was prior to the operation that we've skipped.
Yeah. And the detail of the darkness that a human being, you, was immersed in.
Yeah.
You have chosen to share that
Yeah.
We will come on in a moment as to why
Yeah.
you have, but you have, and we are sharing that more. That's why we're here today.
Yeah.
And that's why we're doing many of the other things that we're doing. And there's a lot more detail, and we will move on.
Yeah.
But of course, you escaped.
Yeah.
Not going to go into detail on that.
No.
That's documented in other places. You then arrive back in the UK.
Yeah.
You then go back to work after a short period of time. And again, we're not going to go into the detail. It's in the book.
Yeah.
It will be in other places.
Yeah.
It is in other places in different forms, which we'll talk about in a moment as to how you and I met.
Yeah.
But it took you 4.5 years to learn to walk again properly.
Yeah.
On crutches.
Yeah.
You're still working.
Yeah.
You lose property.
Yeah. I
You are.
lost my home and an investment property that I had because the person I worked for didn't help me.
No.
And they were ultimately repossessed. So I was stood in court post operation where they made a mess of me in Bulgaria, and the judge said, repossessed, get him out of here.
No compensation.
Nothing.
Yeah.
All that being shot has cost me is money.
Yeah.
My house, my livelihood, my investment property. And one of the properties that was repossessed was sold by the mortgage company for a shortfall, and I'm still paying that now.
Living with the effects of, quite simply, this is my humble sum up, living with the after effects of purely doing your job.
Yeah.
And being really, really good at it. And there you were in this situation for everything you've shared and more.
Yeah.
Of now being back, getting back into work, trying to make a living.
Yeah.
Losing money, still being with the effects of PTSD. Can you remind me again? I know it's 60, is that?
Yeah, so PTSD is measured 0 to 60. 60 being at the worst point you can be with PTSD. As a comparison, if you're involved in, say, a car accident, and within the car, when you're in an accident, a loved one is killed, you would register on the PTSD scale of about mid-30s. I actually register at 52, and I still register at that now. So yeah, that's PTSD.
And you're still working now? Because you have to.
Yeah, I've not been given any money, any help. The biggest thing I've been given is the blue badge.
Yeah.
And that's it. No money, no compensation, no anything. I had no physio when I got back to England. I didn't get operated on the second time by NHS. They didn't know what to do. A team came from Africa to operate on me. I got sent home from the hospital the day after the operation because it was being closed. I then got approached at home by the person I worked for saying, I don't care you've had a second operation. I don't care that you're falling apart. I want you in work on Monday. and he came to pick me up and dragged me in work on the Monday.
And the triumph of the human spirit over immense adversity is the power of what you're sharing for others.
Yeah,
But the reality is, to emphasize what I don't think needs to be emphasized, you're living with what happened still.
yeah,
Yet, which I think we're going to move on to now, you've taken what happened and reformed that
yeah,
into a creative means. So not only is this, I genuinely, in all the time we've known each other, I've not heard you talk so openly about the long-term effects of what happened.
no,
So, for example, financially,
yeah,
as physically, at times I've tended to hear you share that, but again, not as much.
no,
So it feels like to me, because we're chronicling this,
yeah,
that's why we're doing things like this,
yeah,
is there's a greater openness within it, and you've reformed it as much as you can, a positive experience
yeah,
into, of course, first and foremost, the book,
yeah.
writing that, because you kept a diary every day. You
I
had
did.
pages and pages of notes, which are beyond the 100 pages of the book.
I had 400 pages of A4.
Yeah. Effectively, for want of a better expression, journaling the experience
Yeah,
to cathartically, in some way, get that out. Now you've put that into a book form,
yeah,
which people can access.
mm,
And above and beyond what we've shared, there's so much more in there. And the way you write your life, it's astonishing, gripping. It's one of the most compelling. There's a new word that's just come to me, a compelling read.
yeah,
Because when you realise this is not fiction,
no,
this is real life. And the power in that, John,
yeah,
I can express me,
mm,
but I think for others too, it's not to diminish, and this is you as a human being. It's not to say you think you've been through some bad stuff.
no,
Check out what I've been through.
yeah,
It's more that you want to take that experience and use that as a energetic fuel for others. Other people have their darkness and
yeah,
the trauma they face, and through your life, it gives them extra to realise. Not, I need to say this now, John, that you've shared everything you've shared today,
yeah,
and you've sat there.
yeah. I'm actually, folks, you won't know, but I'm sat here shaking,
Hmm.
but I'm here.
Yeah.
So, um, anyone who's hearing this, who's watching this, remember that the brightest star needs the darkest night to shine. So if you're having a bad day, a black day, you need that to come out the other side and shine. So you can do it. You know, you've heard what we've said. You might have the opportunity to buy the book, read the book. Please, if you get a chance, do that. But try and listen to what I've said is the brightest star needs the darkest night.
Yeah. I met you, John. I met you. And I'm going to come to this in a moment, taking it out and holding it. In a completely non-patronising way.
Yeah,
Words, and you'd appreciate this, don't do justice at times to the depth of a feeling,
no,
even though both you and I operate in a world of words,
yeah,
and words are powerful and important. if it doesn't come across, which I'd be surprised, I'm immensely emotionally moved by what you've just shared. And I have to say that because I think that will enable me to ground myself in this moment. I would be very, very surprised if people are not emotionally moved by what you've just shared. So thank you so much. Thank you for that courage that took. Okay. And I share this in no way by way of comparison, but this is where the power of what you share, of the brightest star needs the darkest night.
Yeah.
I am a throat cancer survivor, as you know.
Yeah.
I went a year, 2008, with no voice.
Yeah.
And then I meet John Cheetham. Okay. Last year, a year ago.
Yeah.
Now, if you imagine those two forces, I'm not sharing my experience here. I have shared it before, but I was on a different level.
There's always one, isn't there?
The boys are back in town. We're definitely going to keep that in. And we are.
Yeah.
And that's the point, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the point. The beauty and power of going through that darkness that you've been through and you've just shared,
Yeah.
that I've been through and I've shared in other places.
Yeah.
And now we're together.
Mm.
And we met a year ago.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to share for others, that,
Okay.
in their own darkness,
Yeah.
here we are as two human beings,
Yeah.
able to do what we do now.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have even had the concept of thinking that at that time.
No.
And we're looking to do more because we want to bring the power of the victory, the triumph,
Yeah.
overcoming, rising,
Yeah.
getting back on your feet.
Mm.
You are the full guy.
Literally.
You are. You are.
Yeah.
In my mind, you are.
Yeah.
You are. Because this is not fiction.
No.
This is not some Hollywood film.
No.
This is your life.
Mm.
Yeah? I've got a red book.
Andrews.
But I've got yours. I've got yours. So, Fall Guy, John Cheetham, it's available. You can go to John's website, johncheethampoetry.co.uk. You can order it there. There will likely be a reprint in the future.
Yeah.
Amazon, you can get the book in Amazon. It is available.
It's on KDP as well, folks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I met you just over
yeah.
a year ago, and I met you at the point the book was published.
Yeah.
Since then, you and I have formed together. I'm
Yeah.
a singer-songwriter,
Yes.
throat cancer survivor. I've already shared that. And we decided to join forces because, as well as writing your life,
Yeah.
you're also a published poet, lyricist.
Yeah.
Of an incredible proportion, because your way with words, because you've been to the places you've been to and experienced what you've experienced, is so deep and so of the human spirit.
Yeah.
We couldn't help ourselves in some ways, but think we need to bring those two worlds together.
Yeah.
We need to bring the worlds of music and your life and your lyrics together.
Yes.
So we started that just over a year ago.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about particularly the formation of Fall Guy, the soundtrack of your life.
Okay, so Fall Guy, although it's in song version, it's a compact version of the book. My words are exactly what happened, exactly what's in the book, just in like a mini version, like a mini me.
Can
you guess?
Can you give us some examples? Because when I heard you talk earlier, again, we know each other well, and my brain actually, as you were saying things like protocol and other expressions, I'm hearing that with a musical backing, and hearing the melody that I created from your words.
Yeah.
Can you share with us some sort of key phrases across the songs that we've written, which ultimately is going to become the vinyl soundtrack album?
Yeah. So I do use some key phrases, some phrases that I hate
Mm.
to this day because of what was said to me and the things that happened to me. But when I lost my house, I had to walk past it on crutches, and some of my words are, I thought I heard the buildings cry.
Mm.
I believe buildings have got an emotion. I still believe that. I believed that when I was in a estate agency. I think if you're moving house as a family, I think you pack up the laughter and sweep out the tears
Brilliant.
of any house that you own. When I walk into a property now, I get a feeling of the house.
Mm.
I do.
Mm.
There's some properties, certainly in Blackpool, that 30 years after I've been in that house, I still avoid
Mm. Mm.
because they give me that bad vibe. But yeah, some of my words were, I thought I heard the buildings cry as I casually walked on by.
Um, um,
I wasn't casually walking by, I was on crutches, and I'd been on crutches for about 3 years at that point. But that's the way I write the words to my songs.
it's very, very pictorial, and the process was for Fall Guy,
Yeah,
the album,
yeah,
including the single as well, was for you to send me lyrics.
yeah,
Effectively, I always go with what the first thought that comes to me is. It was very Bernie Taupin, Elton John process,
yeah,
as some as might understand that reference.
yeah,
So effectively, I'm receiving the lyrics,
yeah,
remote to yourself, apart from Fall Guy the single,
yeah,
and then I'm sat at the piano and I'm starting to play and form those. And I want to just stick with Cry for a moment, John,
yeah,
which is a very important thing to share.
mm,
I thought I heard the buildings cry.
yeah,
Buildings hold memories. That's
yeah,
effectively the feeling of that opening line
yeah,
for the single Cry.
yeah,
Is the artwork for the cover
yes,
is you
yeah,
outside the flat, which
yeah,
ultimately you lost as a part of what happened in Bulgaria,
yeah,
in Winkley Square, Preston.
yeah,
So, what we've done through the process of all of the creative process, including the music, is very much the embedding of the essence of what happened.
yeah,
And ultimately, this has been a year project, the album that's developing.
yeah,
More is coming in that regard, and we'll share a little bit more of that in a moment. But the single Cry is out. It's available everywhere. Your lyrics,
yeah,
my voice, my music.
yeah,
And through that means I'm inviting people. People go on various talk shows. They've got a
yes,
book.
yeah,
They've got music.
yeah,
Yeah?
yeah,
Yes. Yes, that's what we're doing,
yeah,
because we want people to connect with what we're doing,
yeah,
and ultimately listening to the music, buying the book, reading the book, ultimately feeds back into everything else we're doing with the project
yes,
for the things that are coming next,
yeah,
because we're amplifying your life and what you want to share for the
yeah.
inspiration of others. What about Run for the Roses in terms of a lyric?
Okay,
You know
so
my favourite.
Run for the Roses. So, Run for the Roses is a saying from Kentucky. Of course, the American gentleman was from Kentucky. The Kentucky Derby horse race is called, worldwide, it's known as the Run for the Roses. Anybody who's been to Bulgaria will know that Bulgaria holds the world's biggest rose garden. So the lyrics for Run for the Roses came from me being smuggled out of Bulgaria in an old twin prop plane. I got loaded into this plane through the cockpit. That's how old it was. They couldn't get me in through the door, crutches, whatever. They bundled me in through the cockpit to get me out of the country quickly. I believe it was one of the government ministers that got me out of there. So we're on this twin prop plane that can't fly above 5,000 feet. I'm on 5 seats of this plane, sprawled out in the worst pain you can believe. My leg is still seeping from the operation. I've had no painkillers. I've not had a wash for 12 days. I was in a mess. But I'm looking out the window of this plane thinking, I'm in the bird's house. I'm stealing space from the birds. I don't know why that came along, but it did. I felt that I was invading the bird's house. So the words in that song were, I'm invading the bird's house, 5,000 feet above the Black Sea coast, going through the world's biggest rose garden. And it was my escape for victory song. I felt like I'd become victorious in my own horse race, being flown out of Varna. And with the connection with Kentucky, the Kentucky Derby, the racehorses being sold, the roses below me, that's where that came from.
And within that, I now understand even more why the song sounds so victorious.
Yeah.
And I knew it did as I read the words, as I felt the energy of your words and your life more accurately. And it's kind of a little bit, I described the song as an American rock anthem. It feels very much that way, but it's the victory. It's the victory song.
You can imagine Bret Michael, Whitesnake, them type of, maybe David Lee Roth on his own, doing that kind of song.
Yeah. And a key phrase from it, as well as the lyrics you've shared, because the lyrics are absolutely exceptional, because it's a soundtrack, it's a life in musical form. Your words, again, I want to emphasise that, is one of the lines in Run for the Roses, you know what's coming, is, if a bullet is the best you can do, then I must feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
So in that line, the amazing nature, John, of you sharing everything you'd experienced that you shared earlier, to then say, you have no power over me.
No.
You have no power. Is that the best you can do? If a bullet is the best you can do, I must feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
That's bewildering in a way. You know, in a time of perhaps at times people wanting to get even with each other.
Yeah.
The level of some form of forgiveness in that from you to them.
Yeah.
And you not being the victim.
No.
You being the victor.
At that point, I'd escaped the mafia, the hospital, the operation. I had an element, although I was in a mess, I had that element of freedom on that plane for 4 hours or whatever it was. In my mind, I'd beaten them at that point.
And my goodness me, the amount of victories that you've had since. So you beat them at that point,
Yeah.
and then you've gone on to be victorious again and again and again, and
Yeah.
I could continue.
And more to come.
Constantly, and more to come. So the bridge.
Yeah.
The bridge, as in the conversion
Yes.
of the bridge into the positive
Yeah.
message, the victory. And that's not ignoring what happened, because of
No.
course that's available book. We've now talked about. We've moved that into the musical form digitally. I have to check my brain at times, John, as you know, because there's a lot of stuff going on for both of us. 4
Yeah.
songs released.
Yeah.
Fall Guy,
Yeah.
Cry,
Yeah.
Run for the Roses, we just talked about that.
Yeah.
Folklore and Tales.
Yeah.
And there is a 5th that's available only in YouTube, an incredible video, which is Fall Guy, the guitar bridge,
Yes.
which features immense guitar playing of Dexter Briggs.
Yes.
So we've got 4 singles that are released.
Yeah.
iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, everywhere, all major platforms.
Yeah.
So stream, download, that puts more energy into what it is that we're doing and what's coming next. CD, I'm going to grab that.
Yes.
Here's one we made earlier, which is 5 of the tracks.
Yes.
So we have on the CD Fall Guy,
Yeah.
Cry,
Yeah.
Run for the Roses, Folklore and Tales,
Yeah.
and an extra track, which is Horsepower.
Yeah.
Now that the audience would have already heard the references to horse racing and the significance of that to your life.
Yeah.
Amazing vocal from Matt Cornarton, DJ in America,
Yeah.
who effectively, your words again, your lyrics, commentates like a race commentator
Yeah.
on the words you've written.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's an exceptional song, and it's only available on this CD.
Yeah.
So the book, am I right in saying, I think, is that £10 in?
It's £9.99 on
£9.99.
Amazon.
I love the penny less.
Yeah.
The people do. I'm not suggesting that that's you. We're going to call this £10.
Yeah.
The CD's £10. So your website, johncheethampoetry.co.uk.
Yeah.
My website, raycoatsvoice.com. I've actually got a page that's dedicated. People can order the CD. And effectively what they're holding is his story in their hands.
Yes. Yeah.
Your story, your life, John Cheetham's life.
Yeah.
So history.
Yeah.
Even if people haven't got a CD player.
Yeah.
This is part of something that's coming next.
Yeah.
And that's the bridge.
Yeah.
Okay. So we worked on a soundtrack, which has now grown to 12 tracks on the album. Wide variety, including Dexter's guitar bridge.
Yes.
We're working on a vinyl next year. Whenabouts are we aiming for that?
I would hope the vinyl will be done in January. I'm hoping for the completion in January. And they were available on standard vinyl. It seems that vinyl's made a big comeback. So it's going to be available everywhere.
Again, we want that feeling of people holding history.
Yeah.
His story. People tried to silence that.
I've been tried to be silenced more than once. Probably more than half a dozen times.
Yeah.
And the comments that newspapers put in their newspaper that said things like, Englishman is allegedly mugged. Hang on a minute, I've been shot, kidnapped, thrown off a bridge, but you're putting I've been allegedly mugged?
Yeah.
Has someone told you to put that? And they have.
Yeah.
They've been told to tone it down in all angles. A big news channel interviewed me for hours. They did all the background on the story, everything, and then got told to pull it and not put it out on TV.
Yeah.
So, I've been silenced more than once.
Yeah.
But, hey, A bullet's the best you can do. Not going to beat me.
No. And that's why what we have done together is expanding.
Yeah.
And the vinyl, I'm just going to get something else, which is a GoFundMe. We've set up a GoFundMe
Yeah.
to fund the work of the album.
Yeah.
And what we're offering to others by those donations is a copy of the vinyl album.
Yeah.
And that's a very, very common thing through a number of different platforms of funding.
Yeah.
GoFundMe is an example. There's various others. I'm not going to go through a list, but loads are available. I know bands that have done a commercial venture, filmmakers that have done a commercial venture.
Yeah.
They've reached out to their audience and others to support them in the completion of a project.
Mm.
And the funds that then go in, there's a give back, a credit, perhaps, for example, in a film, at the end of a film, credit on an album sleeve. We want the vinyl to be available to people that donate to cover the time it takes to record, the musicians, the studio time, and that's still available there now.
Yes.
Ultimately, we're going to be moving this, which was the vision of the music.
Mm.
When I met you, when I began to get to know you better, when I read the book, when I finally got round to that point, after writing some of the songs and found out more about you, I knew this was going to be documentary film, no doubt. Netflix, likely, but also other platforms or other channels as well. But it's that real life, that true life account of something that you think, how is this at all possible? How could this have happened? So therefore, because I'm a singer-songwriter, I started picturing as we began to write. I think initially we wrote Fall Guy, the song. Then I started feeling with the other lyrics that you were sharing, a soundtrack.
Yeah.
And a soundtrack that wasn't remotely written by somebody else.
No.
A soundtrack that came from you.
Yeah.
That was your words.
Yeah.
That would then be an extra addition to the book, but also, here it comes, a bridge for the documentary and or the dramatisation of Fall Guy Your Life. Tell us a little bit, John, and there are some things we can share and some things we can't, of course. What position are we in at the moment of ultimately, I'll call it the book to film, that covers documentary and dramatisation. What position are we in at the moment with regard to that?
We're still in the same position. There's been a couple of famous actors, actresses that have expressed interest. There's been some film producers that have expressed interest. There's been talk of various things, but nothing has happened yet. It will happen, but the story, the book, everything is still available. What I say to people, and this kind of gets me sometimes, all they have to do is give me a ring. Talk to me. Don't talk to other people. Oh yeah, we're going to do this with John's book and we're going to do that and we're going to write. You haven't talked to me yet. Just give me a ring. Send me an email. Send me a fax. Whatever. You know, if you're in prehistoric history, send me a pigeon. I'm not bothered. You know, as long as I know first, then things will happen.
Is your number on your website?
Yeah.
Yep. So
numbers on there, emails on there. If you Google John Cheetham poet, I come up number 1 on Google.
Fantastic.
In Blackpool.
Cool. Fantastic. And I think the world. Blackpool is a part of the world.
Yeah.
An important part to us because that's where we live. But I think beyond that, and I think in the message you've just shared, because I'm very, very involved with you in the project, and I do have contact with a number of different people, is this belongs. And every single person we've spoken to, every single person, you shared a message with me yesterday, which I'm not going to go into detail of, but effectively the concept of taking your life from book to film,
Yeah.
it's a given.
Yeah.
It's a given. And we've had some big named people
Yes.
sharing with us the thoughts of, and then there were events like, I hate to use the term, but I'm going to, COVID happened.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that affected certain things at that time.
Yeah.
I wasn't with you at that time. We've had other people talking about things and sharing ideas.
Yeah.
Nothing yet has happened. Nothing
No.
yet has happened.
Yeah.
So the possibilities are there for those involved,
Yeah.
but the possibilities are still there on the table
Yes.
for other people who haven't shown themselves.
Yeah. And there are a few out there
Yep.
that are keeping their cards close to the chest,
Yep.
which we understand. But you just give me a ring. I'm a easygoing guy in Blackpool. I'm not, I'm not some kind of mafia monster. They're below me anyway. They couldn't beat me. They shot me and lost. So give me a ring. We can deal with it as long as I know. But people who talk about stuff that involves me but don't talk to me about it, you're not going to get anywhere. I need to know what's going on. I will 99% say yes. But tell me.
I think that's a great declaration to conclude on, John,
Yeah.
because you've taken ownership of your life.
Yeah.
You've taken ownership of what happened. You've taken responsibility for your future. You take no responsibility for what happened, but you've taken responsibility for your future.
Mm.
And you've turned the fall. You've turned the fall into the rise. And anybody who's hearing you now, those investors, those sponsors, filmmakers, etc., they will be glad. They will be glad of the day that they invested in the truth of you,
Yeah.
in the truth of you and your life. And I know I am. And it's not conceited. It's not contrived. This is an episode, incredible studio. Cheshire Podcast, thank you so much for enabling us to be here.
Mm.
Morgan, thank you so much. And we have shared a powerful message today.
Yeah.
And the conclusion is quite simple. Not for camera, and we'll be talking after. We'll watch the microphones as we do it.
Yeah.
We might gently push them to the side. Diary with the original Fall Guy, John Cheetham. Watch this space. I'm going to gently push it. You just lean slightly.
Yeah. That's right.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much. Well done, yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Ray. What about the live events that we've done with Fall Guy? Can you tell me about that?
I can tell you about it because we've done it together. I'm glad you've reminded me. I'm glad you've reminded me of the live events because they're really important.
Yeah.
They're really important. And we've done one so far at time of recording.
Yes.
At the Bloomfield in Blackpool.
Yeah.
So effectively, it's like this.
Yes.
It's like you and me together,
Yeah.
as it is, having a chat with a live audience.
Yes.
And I don't think there's many times, and this is what we've shared from the first one that we've done, we're lining a few others up as well in the northwest area to begin with. Many people could say that they've been in the same room as somebody who's shot by the mafia.
Yeah. Not many.
And lived to tell the tale.
No, survived. Not many of us out there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we're offering.
Yeah.
And watch this space because there will be dates available. We're setting a few up for next year.
Yeah.
There's the opportunity of some Q&A to ask John.
Yeah.
Questions. You're very open. You've already shared that. You're very contactable.
Yeah.
Book signings.
Yeah.
So to literally be with the original Fall Guy. Yeah. Music. So of course we perform the songs that we've written together.
Yes. Yeah, quite happy if someone comes to one of our events to sign a book for them, dedicate the book to one of the members of friends, family. No problem, just talk to me. That's what I always say.
Excellent. So much, so much. And the evenings are a room filled with inspiration,
Yeah,
laughter. You've mentioned a couple of times in our discussion the ice cream van
yeah,
selling 99s, reference to Kentucky food,
yeah.
as well as being moving, it's incredibly humorous as well. It's
The
very
way I can cope with what happened is I've got to find the funny side of things sometimes to get through it. Otherwise, I wouldn't get through it. So I, like everybody, have real dark days. But I've found that if I'm having a bad day, I go and write half a dozen songs now.
I can definitely vouch for that. I can definitely vouch for the truth of that.
And then send them over to Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ray, get them done. Why haven't you recorded them yet? What's going on?
Brilliant. So
That's the way I cope. So yeah, if we've got a live event out there, please come along, join us. You'll have a great night, and of course, have a chat with me and see if we can help you.
nice.